So easy to wear.
I've given out all my headsets in the community, and I only have a couple left. And it's hard in COVID times. Like I gave one to Kayla's mom, but I had to like super sanitize it, right?
Yep.
And then when I dropped it off, her son sprayed it with all sorts of electrol in front of me, and I had to like not be offended, right? Like, here, come on in, guys. Hi, guys, come on in. I think they're spawning inside, and
Well,
so
do you? The spawn point is out here. Is there another spawn point inside?
yeah,
In the
I think
front.
they're spawning inside. Yeah, I spawned out here. Andy, where did you spawn?
Whoops. I also spawned
Keely,
out.
where'd you
I
spawn?
also spawned out here.
I didn't know
spawned
there
out
was
in the
another
field.
spawn point here today. Okay, I'm gonna go to the other side.
I love the new avatars. It's been a while, and so I love the fact that our lips move now.
Yes, I love it. And then like I'm beta testing Horizons, and it's super fun. Their avatars are super fun too. I like super fun avatars. I think that's Lawson. Lawson, did you spawn inside?
No, Angelina, there's only one spawn point in this place.
Why are they coming around the corner then?
I don't know, but
It's-
the world
there's
only
a- there's
has
a
one
sign
spawn
that points
point.
arrows this way in the front of the house.
Oh, I
Says,
spawned right
"Meet
out
us in the back."
in the lawn.
Hmm.
We'll
Yeah,
figure it out. Hopefully
put
I'm
us in
standing
the
in a
front of
good
the house.
place. There's not a mirror. Lawson, did you want to? I'm going to stand right here and then get off stage. I don't want to be in front of you, though. So, and then if you, Craig, if you want to get next to me, you'll be responding to both of them, but try to look towards the camera, which are if you hover over, you can see the camera crew. They'll be getting in your face and making good videos and stuff. They're over there in black.
Okay.
Thanks for coming, guys. Oh, can you hear me? We're going to get ready to start in just a few minutes. Donna will give me the cue, I think.
Just take a shit.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
I can
Kayla,
hear
is that you? Go.
All right.
Lawson? Yeah, I can tell it.
All right, cool.
Can you see our word bubbles on top now? Isn't that cool?
Yeah, it's funny.
Let me get back here with you guys. I feel like I'm waiting.
Kayla, are you in your headset?
She's helping her mom real fast. And then we'll get started.
Okay. So as soon as she's standing in front, we can get started.
Okay.
I heard the Horizons mentioned. What is it? I'm looking for it in the Steam store, and I'm not sure what it is.
It's beta testing right now, so you have to get an invitation to get in. And
Oh, okay.
I'll let you know it's really fun. The avatars are really fun. I'm really into fun avatars. That's my thing.
So right now, the beta is only open to United States citizens over the age of 18.
Mm.
And it's invite only.
Invite only, yeah. Ready, Kayla? All right. Here we go. And 5, 4, 3, 2. Hello, guys, and thank you for coming to our Students in VR weekly event. My name is Dr. Angelina Dayton, also known as the VR Lady, and I founded Students in VR with the lovely Donna McTee up in the corner. Hearts for Donna. She's the event coordinator for this event, and if you're interested in doing anything in VR, reach out to her at letsmeetinvr.com. And videotaping for us today is Carlos Austin and Andrew Burr, and we'd like to thank them for helping us with this event also. Reach out to them for any of your in-world videography needs. Students in VR is a part of Educators in VR, and if you want more information about Educators in VR and the wonderful events they put on, like the one that Keely does tomorrow, which is Thursday, go to educatorsinvr.com. So we're really excited today. I'm especially excited because I guess over a year ago, I met Craig. Craig is a wonderful person he'll tell you more about himself, but he writes books and he teaches in Singapore and he does this awesome podcast that everybody should listen to. And he invited me onto his podcast. We became friends. I support him in everything he does. You need to learn more about him today during this talk. So, oh, I'm not Mega. This whole time I forgot. Okay, everybody on stage, make sure that you are on, go to your host tools. No matter how many times you do it, right? No matter how many times, sometimes you forget to do something. So,
Better.
oh goodness. So, should I start over, Donna?
Nope, just carry on.
Okay. So, we'll learn more about it today. Our Students in VR is a student-led organization, and so on stage with me today is Lawson and Kayla, our wonderful Students in VR hosts. And so now that I've done the beginning introductions, Kayla and Lawson, take it away.
All right. Hello everyone. Yeah, I'm Lawson.
And I'm Kayla.
And so I guess we should probably just go into it already. All right. So hi Craig. I'll be leading the first question. So tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do to make the world a better place using VR.
Yeah, what a fantastic question. So I have been a teacher for over 27 years. You probably can't tell from my lack of gray hair in my avatar, but I do have lots of gray hair in real life. And one of the things that has kept me teaching so long is just my love to try and make things fun and interesting in school, and then more importantly, in education. So I've always been excited to try the latest toy or gadget. You know, there's this saying that often comes in the education world, and that's don't put the cart before the horse. But I'm here to tell you that I think there's merit to putting the cart first and the horse last. So what I mean by that is it's sometimes important for us to try new things like VR, or back in the 90s, I was one of the first teachers to have a computer in the back of my room, just to do some research and development and play around and see what the potential is for a particular tool. I used to, as a little kid, I used to get little toys, and I remember I'd be so excited I'd sleep with the toy, whether it was a bouncy ball or a yo-yo. And that has sort of described my career throughout my 27 years, is just trying to tinker and toy with the power of a new toy.
All right. Awesome. All right.
So our next question is, tell us about some of the interesting people you have met that you have had on your podcast and some of the interesting things that you've learned.
Oh, again, what a fantastic question. Well, one of them is actually in this room today. I have 53 episodes to date in my podcast, which is called VR and Education. But in those 53 episodes, there's only been one person who I've had on more than once, and that is Dr. Dayton, who's here today, of course. So I've had her on twice. So I would call her one of my most interesting people, because we think so much alike about how learning should happen. So when I first met her, I was doing some work for Springboard VR, which is a VR company that hosts commercially games and how games might apply to location-based entertainment. And Dr. Dayton and I connected through then, and we had this wonderful chat on my podcast about things, experiences that people maybe thought were games, but were actually quite conceptual and very much part of how we learn. One was a VR fishing app. So Dr. Dayton and I talked about how worthwhile it was to put students into something like a VR fishing app, because once they're in that experience, they start to become curious about things like, well, I wonder where in the VR app where there's water and a lake might you find more fish, or what part of the lake is it easier or harder to catch fish in? And I think schooling or education in general needs to start to embrace this kind of thinking where students are allowed to be more divergent about their thoughts instead of let's memorize this or let's take this test. And my second story is the medical field and VR have been doing some very interesting things. VR has been used in the medical industry to help burn victims, for example, forget that they have this awful, awful problem trying to change the dressing on their skin, and they can use VR to distract them and possibly prove that VR can reduce the pain management without using drugs. And so I had a gentleman on who developed an app called Enhance. And this VR application called Enhance teaches people about their thinking. So it's metacognition. So you go into the VR app and you can work on things like, can I improve my focus and concentration? Or how can I improve my auditory listening skills? This one's neat because around you is a bunch of sounds and you have to point at where the sound came from, but it's in a 360 degrees. So it really makes you think and concentrate. Where did that sound come from? And can I identify the exact location? So those would be two really interesting, they're in general, they're all interesting. You get people from all over the world. I'm getting better at pronouncing people's last names. I often get someone on the show and we practice their last name before they come on the show. And then I always butcher the last name. And so that's always a funny story for me. So those are some really interesting people I've had.
Yeah. It's cool to find out all those experiences that they had or that done kind of. All right. Moving on to our next question. Hold on, let me just pull it up. What do you decide? Why did you decide to do the things that you do? Like a podcast and write a book and butcher that. Sorry.
That's okay.
Why did you decide to do the things that you do, like a podcast and write a book and teach?
I think everyone dabbles in things, their hobbies. I call them hobbies. Some of us have probably tried knitting as a hobby. Some of us maybe tried skateboarding as a hobby. But as soon as you go back to something again and again, pretty soon that hobby becomes more of a passion. And when things are passionate to you, it's not work or it's not arduous or difficult or laborsome anymore. And so for me, as I started to get interested in virtual reality, I kept coming back to it. It wasn't something that sort of I put down. It wasn't this sort of quick hobby. And it is so much a passion of mine now. And I think about it often and I talk about it with, my students at school. I inundate my poor wife about it all the time, to the point where it's something I want to do and think about all the time. And so that has sort of kept me going with my podcast, like I said, with 53 episodes, and also motivated me to write a book about, I have some fairly progressive ideas about how kids should learn things. And I really think that kids need to be interested in and engaged. And that doesn't happen through forcing them to memorize facts. I think kids are more excited and they get more curious and they lean into things if we provide them with this holistic experience, which I think VR is really good at doing. If you pick the right virtual reality app, kids become in awe and they have more questions than answers. And that got me so motivated into writing about, and then more importantly, thinking about it, talking with you guys about how VR fits into learning and education.
All right.
Yeah. Okay, so another question is, what is the most exciting thing you've done in virtual reality?
Oh, so many for this one, so many ideas. I would say I got the opportunity to help allow two of my students present at the Students in VR conference, which we had a few months ago. And seeing my students who were on stage and having them be comfortable sharing and presenting. One boy in particular was quite shy, and yet once he donned an avatar, instead of in real life, once he was in an avatar like this, he seemed to come out of his shell. And to me, that was very exciting to see this very shy, introverted boy talk about some of the games he had made, as well as talk about just how much he enjoys VR. And then the second one is I was able to present at the Educators in VR conference, which was in February, I believe. And that conference was so new to me too. And, doing something new is always exciting, and doing something new that pushes you outside of your comfort zone, so I think VR is beautiful for that, and you're seeing a huge growth in VR because people are interested. Struggle is good, and getting uncomfortable at trying something new can be fantastic at teaching us how to grow as a person. Uh, my family and I have traveled all over the world. We currently live in Singapore, and before COVID-19, because Singapore is such a hub and everything's really close, we got to go to some amazing places. And one of them was Borneo. Borneo is a part of Malaysia, and we got to hike through this tropical rainforest. We had to hire a guide. So the guide is taking us through this beautiful rainforest, and he stopped us. He said, wait, stop. And so I was really scared. I was like, oh no, I hope it's not a snake, because I really am tag them. But it's a bit of a metaphor for us because, too many times people are like the monkey where they stick their hand into the jar and they won't let go of the prize because they're too uncomfortable to try new things. And so a great metaphor for me to learn that we need to learn to, unlike the monkey, we need to learn to let go of maybe something that's comfortable for us to try these new things like the virtual reality.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to our next question. What is the most exciting thing you've done in real life?
Wow. I think I would have to sort of draw on all our travel experiences. When we travel, I have a son who's now 18, and he's in university. But when we traveled, he always wanted to do something kind of thrill seeking. He's a bit of a adrenaline junkie, and I'm not as fearless as him, but I would sort of come along for the ride, and he would do the zip line, but I'd watch the zip line, or he would try the jet ski, and I would watch him. And then one time I got the courage up to go with him on one of his adventures, which, of course, gulp, was bungee jumping. And
Oh.
I'm pretty scared of heights. And so again, the theme here, I guess, to my talk is step outside of your comfort zone. So I tried it, and would I do it again? No, but it goes to show you that sometimes a community of people, like my family in this case, and travel can help you try and learn new things. So I guess bungee jumping would be one of the craziest things, and arguably the most exciting thing I've done.
Yeah, I cannot do jumping. I feel like a really bad thing of heights, so I could not do that.
Yeah, it's just I willingly don't like going into high places, so I'm not going to willingly jump off of a high place.
All right.
Like, that's my mindset.
Mm.
Okay, so what is your favorite word in any language and why?
This is such a cute question. I love this question. So my last name, as it says up there, is Frelick, but I often get people who slightly mispronounce it as Frolic. And so that's my favorite word, is if you think of the word frolicking, if you frolic, you're sort of dancing throughout the fields, and you're kind of happy-go-lucky, and you're enjoying. And so my favorite word is frolicking. And I giggle. The school I'm at is K-12, and you'll often see the kindergarten kids frolicking down the hallway. They're skipping and they're holding hands. And I think we all need to frolic more in our lives and see the joy and the fun in anything we do. So that's my favorite word.
Oh, I love that. All
Thank
right.
you.
Talk about an act of kindness that warms your heart.
Again, I have to draw on an example where we were traveling. So we got to travel to Siem Reap, which is in Cambodia. So Cambodia is a developing country. It's still very poor compared to North American standards. And so when we were traveling to Siem Reap, we would often hire these drivers who drove these little buggies called tuk-tuks. And so it was a motorbike and then kind of a chariot in the back. And our tuk-tuk driver, you know, obviously was getting by on probably $2 a day. And so he's driving us out to see the ruins in Siem Reap. It's called Angkor Wat, these giant ruins. Angelina Jolie probably made them famous for her movie Tomb Raider. And all of a sudden he pulls over at the side of the road because there's this old man sitting there, and we were like, oh, I wonder what's going on. And he opens up his bag and he offers this bread to this old man on the side of this gravel road. And what struck me as amazing kindness is, I bet you he just gave up his lunch that he had for the day to help out this older, elderly gentleman. And I see that a lot in Asia, is how well they treat their elderly people. They have such reverence and respect. And it's a good lesson. I'm Canadian living in Singapore, but as a Canadian, I sometimes think about, how we need to give more respect to our elderlies and treat them with, greater compassion.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
So Craig, we're gonna ask so quite often in alt space we have to re-enter because our voice starts to get choppy, and the recorder is telling us that your voice is just a little bit choppy. It usually happens in every talk about halfway through, and we're about halfway through. So if you want to exit the space and re-enter, I'm going to tell a story about when I didn't let go of a candy bar and a vending machine, much like the monkeys in Malaysia, and I was stuck there for a little while. And if you want to re-enter, we'll just take a second and we'll wait on you. Does that sound good?
Yeah, I'll pop out. Okay.
Okay, thank you. And this is absolutely a true story, guys. I thought, well, we have to call the fire department before it took a good 30 seconds for me to realize I could just let go of the candy bar and get out of the vending machine. And so I hope I'm not the only one in the audience that's had that experience before. Thank you all for your patience while he re-enters. Those of you that have been at our events before know that I say if you don't have a technical issue, it's not a valid VR event. And so the students are usually really good about rolling with it and getting right back into the swing of things once we get our speaker back. And what he's saying is so interesting. I don't want anybody to miss it because it was starting to get a little bit choppy, which is still amazing considering it's actually tomorrow where he is. And so he's pretty far away, yet it sounds like he's just, right here with us. And so I think that's pretty amazing. You guys are doing a great job. Isn't he totally interesting in all the places and all the monkeys he's seen?
Yeah.
There's a lot of monkeys.
I don't even have one real life monkey story to share.
Zoo.
I'm back.
Okay.
Probably mine.
Okay. You sound good. Thank you so much for doing that. You guys take it away.
Alrighty.
So, our next question is, how do you see virtual reality doing good in the world?
This is a fantastic follow-up question from the previous question. And kind of like my answer to the previous question about giving greater respect to our elderly, I would love to see more VR headsets in the heads of elderly or older people, whether that meant giving more headsets to retirement homes or long-term care facilities. I think many of us have seen on the news how hard COVID has hit long-term care facilities. So if you think about it, elderly people in general already are less adventurous, and they tend to stay in their rooms or in their facilities. So how perfect would it be to start to allow them access to the virtual world, albeit maybe in a small way, to do some field trips, or even just to play. I was talking to Donna before coming on air. I just bought a VR game from the Oculus store called Walkabout Mini Golf, and it's multiplayer, so you can play mini golf with other people, and it's really fun and enjoyable, but low key, nothing too thrill seeking. And I just think, wow, what if we put headsets into long-term care facilities, even right now during COVID, giving us an opportunity to interact with them through fun little games like mini golf. So that sort of would be something I could see that would have great good in the world and efficacy.
Yeah. Definitely. All right. Moving on to our next question. What do you hope to see more of in the future, just in general? It doesn't have to be a VR, just in general.
I would love for there to be more emphasis in the world on thinking of experiential learning and experience. As you know and have heard, I've traveled quite a bit in the world. And right now, I think there's too much emphasis on procedural knowledge. By procedural knowledge, I mean, copy this or do this. And there's less wonder and awe. There's less people either in schools or in businesses that are promoting kind of this idea that for us to be truly happy, we need to be able to have some room to explore and learn on our own. I think, there's, I can't remember if it was Google, but one company came up with this idea of, 20% time. And 20% time means that if you're an employee, we want you to spend 20% of your time, company time, working on something that you're excited about. And, having schools do that too, where it's okay that maybe we're not following the curriculum, because there's merit to us learning new things on our own and following our passion. So I wish the world embraced that more. Working from home right now, so many people working from home, that gives us a little bit more time to explore new ideas and to trust people. I don't think we trust people enough. We don't trust students enough if we give them sort of time to explore, that they're going to use that time wisely. And, for the most part, I don't know if we trust, people in businesses. And I think when people are given that freedom, they will think up big things. So those are my ideas.
Yeah. Alrighty.
So, what can we do to bring virtual reality more into the homes of everyday people? What do you think we can do?
Holy cow, what a great question. From the people I talk to in my podcast, they all, one big theme in my podcast that has come up time and time again is, until people put on a 6 degree of freedom, a higher end headset, they don't realize how amazing virtual reality is. So it's almost like we need systems in place to allow people the opportunity to see the power and the magic of VR by getting more headsets on people. You know, how that happens, I'm not sure. Maybe vending machines where you could have a vending machine where you put in, I don't know, $5 or something just to allow you to rent out or quickly try out a VR headset, or more booths. It's harder with COVID, but you know, we need to get VR headsets into more people so that they see how amazing VR really is. I have yet to
Yeah.
meet someone that has put on a VR headset like the Quest or something that is 6 degrees of freedom. I've yet to meet someone say, no, thank you, that was no good for me. Everyone I've met has said, wow, I had no idea that this was so engaging and immersive and powerful. And so, you know, I think we're doing our part, like you guys are doing your part with students in VR, and more people need to be evangelical or evangelists about how cool and wonderful VR is.
Yeah. Because I know, like, my mom, she has, like, really bad motion sickness, but she was even able to put on the headset and was like, wow, this is amazing. I'm not about to, like, throw up or something. Like, I'm not sick or anything. So that was honestly really cool for her to try that out.
Yeah,
All
the
right.
new headsets, sickness. I agree.
Yeah. All right. If you could share one insight about what you have learned about VR, what would it be?
One insight. I talk about this in my book that I wrote, and I've kind of already touched on it a little bit, and that is that I think VR has superpowers, but more so for us to use it to think big. So to, you know, we call it conceptual understanding. So conceptual understanding means, you know, instead of memorizing facts and dates in VR, it's more, how can we truly understand empathy, or how can we truly understand what it's like to change our identity, or how can we truly understand what complex systems thinking is like? Well, VR can do that in a very powerful way, you know, whether that's doing some escape room puzzle with a group of friends. You know, I play Keep Talking and No One Explodes, which is this great game that you can do in VR where you have, and you have the bomb there and you have to work with other people. So
Hectic.
VR is real magical at, you know, doing hard to teach things like effective communication. VR is great at effective communication, you know, doing worksheets at school and reading textbooks and taking notes. You know, that's not fun and engaging, but, you know, hopping in a world and having to explore and think big and have lateral thinking and systems thinking, that's sort of the big takeaway I think that more and more people should be using virtual reality for, especially for learning and education.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alrighty.
So, our second to last question is there something that you would like to talk about that's not included in our list of questions?
Yeah, I think the gamification tends to be sometimes thought of as a bad word in learning. You know, I have heard parents say, oh, you're using games in your classroom? I don't want my kids playing games. And yet, I wish parents took the time to realize that there's so much that their son or daughter is learning from playing games, especially if you take the time to unpack what's going on in the game. You know, I use all sorts of different games. I stay away from shooter games, and I don't believe in games that promote violence, but I think the gamification, if done well, allows students this fun way to engage in bigger ideas. You wouldn't use gamification to understand more expert content necessarily, because it's hard to gamify something that's overtly complex, but you can gamify big ideas like, changing identity, or you can gamify bigger ideas like how to use problem solving in a fun way. And so I think that would be my other sort of takeaway, is that my hope is that VR sheds a positive light on how games can be used by students to enhance their, we call it 21st century learning.
Okay. Last question.